law firm training, making sure that you all know exactly how to get the most out of Flo Recruit and turn your 1L pipeline into a 2L pipeline with Flo Recruit's in-person events. And special bonus, we're also going to show you our virtual events. I'm Katherine. I'm the co-founder and CEO here at Flo Recruit, and I also have Kristin Payne on the line with me at our account manager. Kristin, say hello.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today.
Awesome. Well, it's going to be a great presentation. Quick agenda. We're going to start with the state of pre-recruiting. What is the market saying about pre-recruiting? We hear lots and lots of our clients talking about it, but there's actually different opinions, and it's all over the map on how firms are thinking about this. The second, we're going to go over challenges with pre-recruiting that we are hearing from our clients, big and small, and outcomes of those challenges. What are the consequences of the problems that our clients are dealing with when it comes to pre-recruiting? And then finally, we're going to spend the bulk of our time going over pre-recruiting strategies and techniques to ensure that you're getting the most out of Flo Recruit and you're able to track every single candidate touch point at all the events you're hosting and attending so that you can make that a candidate pipeline and hire more efficiently. Pass it to you, Kristin, for some housekeeping.
Thank you. Make sure you use the chat to say hello. Let us know who you are and where you're calling in from today. Also use the Q&A at the end of the session today. We're going to take some time to answer any questions that you have. And then the session is also being recorded. So if you did register, you will get a copy of the recording in a day or two.
Awesome. Okay, we like to kick things off with polls, and we want to make sure we understand what is the audience's feelings about pre-recruiting. Let's see how you all feel about pre-recruiting. I'm going to launch this poll, so you should see it on your end. But end of this poll. Let me do a different one, excuse me. We want these pre-recruiting attitudes. So we want to know, what are your feelings about pre-recruiting? Do you hate it? Are you grumpy about it? Could you take it or leave it? You're okay, or you love it. You feel like your firm has figured this out and you know exactly what you're doing. We'll let y'all answer for a little bit.
See some responses coming in.
Awesome.
I feel like it's going to be a very split response. What do you think, Katherine?
I'm thinking so too. It's definitely looking like that. All right, I think we have 50 folks who have answered. So Kristin, why don't you go over the results here?
Definitely. Okay, so for hate it, we have 8% of the votes. Grumpy about it, 35%. Could take it or leave it, 20%. Okay with it, 27%. And love it, 10%. So the outliers of hate it or love it are actually very small in comparison. And then in the middle, we have okay with it, could take it or leave it, and grumpy about it.
Is that what you expected to see based on your conversations with your clients, Kristin?
I actually thought there would be more in the extreme areas. After talking with customers, some people really like it and their firm has, a plan in place and, know how to do it. And then there's other firms who aren't really on board with it, kind of maybe think it's not fair. So I actually find these responses very interesting.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for that insight. And I hope the audience sees that we're a little all over the map with pre-recruiting. I'll share those results out so that you all can see this directly on your screen as well. Just as Kristin stated, it's pretty split. We all feel a little differently about it. And, we thought there might be some more on the polar ends of the spectrum based on our conversations with clients, but this is definitely not a topic that everyone feels the same about. Okay, so with all the emotions surrounding this concept of pre-recruiting, which is just recruiting students before the typical OCI timeline, what are the main challenges that we see folks dealing with? The first is that pre-recruiting is happening. That's the first challenge. It's happening whether we like it or not. Almost every firm that we talk to and every school that we talk to says that this is new and it's happening on their campus. It's happening with their candidates. And there's really nothing that I think the industry can do to stop it. But the outcome of this is that our firms are citing that they're losing to firms who move faster. If they're not doing pre-recruiting, if they're not participating in that act of recruiting students earlier, then unfortunately they're seeing more and more candidates in their pipeline drop out before they would expect them to. So they are losing to firms who move faster. The second challenge here is that there are uneven law firm policies, meaning that it's not like every law firm has decided on a policy that is about the same. People feel differently about pre-recruiting at different firms, and leadership isn't aligned that this is happening and is a reality. What this results in is that some firms are getting a completely unfair advantage because they're going earlier to candidates, and that gives them a better chance to actually differentiate themselves among those students who are just trying to figure out where they want to be in the sea of law firms. Because they're first, the student actually remembers them. The third challenge here is that there's little to no regulation. We all know that the NALP guidelines are no longer something that are used by NALP, and as a result, there is no regulation. I know that definitely different schools have different guidelines, but it becomes very difficult when there isn't one set standard. And like we said, that means that there's no official guideline. Kind of feels like the Wild West, which is our final challenge. It's open season. Feels like every firm is doing things differently. They're going earlier and earlier, and that makes it hard to plan. Our recruiting teams are trying to figure out, when the recruiting season is supposed to kick off and when 1L recruiting ends and when it turns into 2L recruiting. And our most progressive firms are realizing that pre-recruiting is actually just recruiting. We're just doing it year round. So another poll here, how does your firm approach pre-recruiting? I'm going to try to open up that other poll. Oh man, I ended the poll. Oh, relaunch poll. All right, let's see. Okay, here we go. I swear we know how to use Zoom. Firm's approach to pre-recruiting. How does your firm approach it? Are you all in? You already do it. You already do it, but plan to do it more. You're not sure. You're doing it here and there, but it's not a major focus. It's against your policies, or you don't know what is pre-recruiting. That's why you came to this webinar, to figure that out. Okay, I see the results coming in. We'll wait until there are a few more. We're nearing that 50 mark of people responding. Awesome. This one is interesting. This one is less split. All right, just a few more seconds here and we will share the results. All right, Kristin, share with us, what are we seeing here with this answer?
Yeah, so this is really interesting. So 4% said all in, we do this currently. 47%, so a big chunk, say already do it, but plan to do more. 9% are not sure. 36% doing it here and there, but it's not a major focus. 2%, it's against our policies. And there's another 2% who don't know what's pre-recruiting. So hopefully by the end of that today, you will have a better idea of what pre-recruiting is. So it sounds like a lot of people are doing it, but want to do more, or they're doing it kind of sporadically and it's not really a focus of their firm just yet.
Yeah, that's really interesting that we're seeing this split, which is far more concentrated than what we saw in that previous poll. I mean, almost half of you said that you already do it and plan to do more, which means that as we think about the upcoming recruiting season, people are not slowing down. And then the other half, or almost half, doing it here and there, but not a major focus. I think that speaks to a split amongst firms and how they're thinking about pre-recruiting and their strategy.
Yeah, I think so. And also, it sounds like a lot of firms are doing it, but their recruiters have their own personal feelings about doing it or not doing it. So that's really interesting as well.
Yep, definitely very true. Sharing the results here so that you guys can see it in the flesh. Take a screenshot if you want this for your own data internally to share this with your firm leadership. But it looks like precruiting is here. Many of you are already doing it, and you're planning to do even more. Okay, so with both of those polls, with our introduction on precruiting, recruiting students outside of the normal OCI timeline, we wanted to give you solutions to some of these problems. How does your firm participate in precruiting and actually make the most of all the events that you might host and all the different student interactions and relationships you might build? And the solution that Flo Recruit brings you is that we enable you to track candidates through outreach events. At Flo Recruit, we have 3 different types of outreach events that you have access to in the software you already subscribe to. We have in-person events, which was actually the first of the Flo Recruit products, where you can track candidates at all of the in-person events that you either attend or host yourselves. The second is virtual chats, where you're enabling your attorneys to interact with candidates in small groups so that you can still build that personal relationship just in a digital environment. And then the final option are webinars, where you're hosting large-scale communications to a large group of candidates who want to get to know your firm. We're going to dive into in-person events first. Why have them a part of your strategy? We were just virtual for so many years, but in-person events are definitely coming back. We can see that in the data on our platform that people are using in-person events, they're hosting, and they're even attending some. So why do them? The first is that you get to forge impactful relationships with candidates. Now, I think this is true for anything where you're getting that small group, that one-on-one small group interaction with a candidate. But in the in-person world, you can often take a larger event like a panel and have those small breakouts that just happen naturally at the end of the event, or when a student is walking up to a presenter. You have that ability to forge that impactful relationship. The second is that with some in-person events, you can host your own events and you can do it on your terms. You can do it in your own office. You can do it in a particular location that really speaks to the area that you work and allows you to really control that environment. And then finally, in-person events are just part of the overall hybrid approach. We know that most law firms are doing hybrid, meaning that they have folks in the office 2 to 3 days a week, and the other 2 to 3 days a week, they're working from home. And if that is the case, then it makes sense that your recruiting strategy should also reflect both the in-person and the virtual approach. So clear use cases we hear from our clients: when would you use in-person events? First is career fair hosted by a school. You know, you're walking into that room or outside, we've seen lots of schools do lately. There's a bunch of tables and firms are out there meeting with students. And then the second use case that we hear a lot is a reception hosted by a firm. Perhaps you're inviting local student organizations to come to your firm for a reception, or it's rising 1Ls or 2Ls that you're excited to welcome into your doors or to a location near your office. All right, Kristin, I'm going to pass it to you so we can go directly in the Flo Recruit product and see how this works.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks, Katherine. So as Katherine mentioned, there are a couple use cases for in-person events. One is events hosted by you, and another is events hosted by a school. Now, you may be thinking, if the school is hosting the event, why would I create an event in my Flo Recruit account? So in the past, when you would attend a school-hosted event, you may have to keep track of all of those students you meet with through a sign-in sheet, a physical pen and paper. By creating the event in your Flo Recruit account, you can easily track all of those students that you meet with, and their data is getting entered directly into your account. So the first way is through a kiosk mode. This is something you could do through a laptop or a tablet, where students can walk up, fill out their information, and once they submit it, it is saving directly in your Flo Recruit account. So you can easily connect with them later and send them a follow-up, invite them to future events. And then the second thing you can do that we can help you with is actually create a QR code. So we have a couple flyers that we can create for you. Katherine, if you want to pause here for just a moment. So this is something that you could have posted in your booth at the school. So that way things can continue to flow. You not get a backup line at your booth. They can scan it and go. Something to point out about this flyer is where you see the Flo logos, we would actually be able to enter your firm's logo there. So it's going to be branded to your firm, and you're going to have your own custom QR code that you can use at all of your events moving forward.
Awesome. I love seeing that, Kristin. I love seeing the QR code and kiosk mode, like you mentioned. And I think the picture that you painted was so great. You know, you have that table, you can have an iPad or your computer set up. You enable candidates to walk up, and instead of using that paper sign-in sheet, they're able to just type their information in or scan a QR code on their phone and do it right there. It's so much better than an in-person paper sign-up sheet when you can use the in-person digital solution.
100%. And something nice is when you create that event, you can turn on documents like a resume. And so when the candidate goes on and fills out the kiosk mode, it's going to send them a text and an email where they can go back later and fill out any additional information that you might have asked for. So this is a really great way to digitally get their resume and already have it in your Flo Recruit account.
Yep, great point.
Okay, so the next point or the next type of in-person event is one that you're actually hosting. So in our example here, it's a Rising 2L reception. So really great things that you can do with this event is once it's created, you have the registration link. So you're able to send out this link to anybody you'd like to invite. They'll, register for it. So you can go in and continuously monitor RSVPs. If you have a capacity limit to keep in mind, you can in real time see where you're at. Connected to the registration, you can have confirmation emails go out as well as reminder emails. That way they get notice and have the information of where the event is taking place. Any sort of address information, sometimes it may be at your office and there needs to be security, they need to park in a specific area. You can include all of those details and they'll receive that automatically. Now, in our previous example of in-person for the school hosted, we discussed kiosk mode and the QR code. So both of those features are available in in-person event types that you're hosting as well. But another great feature is our check-in. Katherine, if you could go to the point in the recording where we look at check-in. Okay, perfect. So when you are live at your event with this check-in feature, this works best when you have somebody sitting at the front, welcoming all of your guests and checking them in. So right now we could see that I searched for Ashley's name. I was able to select her and check her in. So you can really quickly and easily do this as people walk up. As you continue to check people in, once it gets towards, maybe you've waited 30 minutes after the start time, you have a list of people left who registered but didn't actually show up. You'll be able to bulk select all of their names and mark them as no show all at one time. The reason you want to check people in and mark as no show is in the candidate profile, you're going to be able to have record of every event that this candidate has registered for, and you're really clearly going to be able to see if they actually attended or not. This gives you a good picture of who is engaged with the firm, and those are the people that you're going to want to continue to connect with and invite to more events to really solidify that relationship. So that way, when it is time for you to extend an offer to them, there's no doubt in their mind that you are the firm that they want to accept an offer from.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree with that, Kristen. And it's so nice to have that check-in digital because we know, again, people used to be using paper here, and this really differentiates your firm as a sleek experience where you have everything in one place. We actually had a question come in, Kristen, that I thought we could answer about the QR codes. Can more than one location slash office for a firm have QR codes, or is it just one per firm? How does that work?
That's a great question. So the nice thing about the QR code that we create for you is going to be using the account's day of link. So that link isn't tied to a specific event or a specific office location. It will show any events that your account is hosting within the next 24 hours. So it's an evergreen link. Once we create that QR code for you, you'll be able to use it moving forward for all events for all locations.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay, we're going to move on here, but definitely keep submitting the Q&A because we are going to answer more questions at the end. All right, we wanted to make sure we went through the other two outreach events types, virtual chats and webinars, a little shorter than the time we just spent on in-person. But we want to remind everyone that what we're seeing in the market is that hybrid approach. But candidates have remained the same through all of the digital and all of the in-person. They want to build relationships with your firms. So with Flo Recruit virtual chats, we enable you to allow candidates to sign up to meet with attorneys in small groups or one-on-one. So you're fostering that personal connection. So why have them as a part of your strategy? The first, like we said, is building relationships in those small groups. That's what candidates want. They want to get to know your firm on a personal level because it's your people that differentiate you. The second is that you're able to identify high potential candidates earlier in the process. This is the same for in-person events and virtual chats, and to some extent webinars as well. But you get that ability to converse with candidates earlier in the process, no matter where they are. They don't have to be in your backyard to attend an in-person event. You get to expand your reach with virtual chats and continue the conversation. Maybe you met them in an in-person event, but this gives them yet another touch point. And then finally, as always with Flo Recruit, we give you that sleek video chat experience so that they see your logo there and everything is smooth and you're not fumbling around with links. Use cases here. We hear a lot about allowing people to use virtual chats to enable candidates to meet the firm attorneys. Sometimes it's in a particular practice area, or sometimes it's for a particular affinity group. The second is that this gives an opportunity, and sometimes people create events around this for your candidates to ask specific follow-up questions. Maybe you're hosting this as a follow-up to a bigger event that you did. And then, like we mentioned, again, use case here is to continue the conversation. Maybe you met them at another event, and this enables you to continue that conversation with the candidate. Kristen, over to you to look at virtual chats.
Yeah, so with virtual chats, like Katherine mentioned, this is something that can be used to really build those personal connections in a smaller group setting. So here in our event, we can see that we have 3 different members of the firm, and they each have their own schedule. So you can really customize this and make it fit for the particular person who's participating. And then those candidates that you're inviting, they get the experience of registering. So that's what we're seeing here. The candidates coming to our registration link, filling out their information. And here in a moment, we're actually going to be able to see exactly what they see and how it lays out the members and the schedules that are available to them. Now, when a candidate is signing up, they're only going to be able to sign up for time slots based on the settings that you've selected. So you can control how many time slots that they can sign up for. So in this example, I've set it up to where each candidate can select one time slot. So we can see as I click, if I try and click another one, it will not let me have multiple. And so it tells me right here that it's confirmed, and it again shows me the member and the date and time of the event. You can also have the automated emails set up with this event type. One of the really great things about virtual chats is it extends your area of reach. For in-person events, it's going to be limited to people who live in the specific vicinity of the city that you're hosting the event in. With virtual chats, the candidates can be all over the country. So this gives you an opportunity to connect with more people, more students, and build those relationships outside of your immediate area.
Awesome. Yes, totally agree. And it's so beautiful to put the candidate in the driver's seat and select those times that work for them. And I love seeing this screenshot at the end. Again, that Flo logo is your logo. So it is personalized, customized to your firm, as well as that color right there. Okay, so final outreach event type that we wanted to show you is our webinar event type. A webinar is what we're on right now. It allows you to communicate with a large group, in our case, of candidates. This enables you to get the word out about your firm. It allows that maximum reach and enables you to really get the message to candidates that you want. Why have them a part of your strategy? Webinars enable you to inspire audiences no matter where they live. It's usually a first touch point for a candidate. Maybe they're coming to learn something new and your firm is putting on an awesome webinar about a topic they're interested in. This positions your firm as an expert on this topic with candidates, and they can join it from wherever they might live. And finally, of course, you can reach those larger audiences. It's always going to be bigger than what you can handle with virtual chats or with an in-person event because it's limitless. You can have as many people as you want there. Use cases, this could be prepping candidates for a physical event. Maybe it's a series leading up to an in-person event that you're really excited about. And secondly, you can really communicate firm culture here. You can show candidates at a large scale what your firm is about, and then hopefully bring them in, draw them in to engage with you further in virtual chats and in in-person events. Kristin, let's go ahead and see webinars.
Definitely. So as Katherine mentioned, webinars are a great way to have an extended reach of who you're able to connect with. You can do this in a panel session with different attorneys from different practice areas. You can highlight a specific practice area. You can highlight a specific topic. There are endless possibilities of how you could use this. So just like our other event types, you will have a registration link that you'll be able to share out with candidates. They'll be able to register. And our check-in feature works for this event type as well. So as the webinar is happening, you can easily mark, checked in, no show, to really keep track of who actually attended. And you can see here the registration process, very similar to the other event types. And then they would immediately receive a confirmation of their registration. And then that is also how they would receive the link to actually join the webinar when it's time to start.
Yep, definitely. I think one of the things that has surprised us when we talk to firms about webinars, virtual chats, and in-person events is that before Flo Recruit, when they weren't using Flo Recruit, they were having to send confirmation emails manually. The way they were taking registrations is that a candidate would email one of the recruiters, say they were interested in attending, and then the recruiter would email them back with the information. Now, this is just no longer necessary when you use Flo Recruit. You're leveraging our automations to take care of the logistics. So when a candidate registers, they're able to provide more information than you could typically get over email, and they're receiving an email that's automated. A recruiter doesn't have to send it with all the information they need. And I think that's huge, Kristin, because our recruiters don't need to be spending time sending emails. They need to be spending time fostering relationships with candidates.
Right. And another big piece is all of these events are tied to a specific candidate. So in the past, if you were hosting webinars, having small session, doing in-person events, you're having to manually keep track of every touch point that you've had with a specific candidate, where in Flo Recruit, it does that for you. You can go to the candidate's profile, click on the events tab, and you're going to be able to see all in one place every time that you've interacted with that particular person.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, Kristin, give us some of those key takeaways again so we make sure that folks on the line know exactly why they should be using Flo Recruit's outreach events.
Yes. So, key takeaways. One is engaging with those candidates and being able to track that. It's one thing to host these events and meet these candidates, but if you don't have a record of that, that kind of defeats the purpose, because then you're not able to continue to foster those relationships moving forward. Like we mentioned, building relationships is key. You want to really have a solid foundation with these candidates. So no matter when you extend an offer to them, if it's before OCI or after or during, they already have a firm foundation with you, and I want to work for your firm. So it's all about building and fostering those relationships throughout the full year. And then extending offers early to top talent. When you find those candidates that are just out of this world, you want to be able to move quickly and extend those offers and have that relationship so they'll want to work with you just as much as you want them. So what should you do next? The next thing is to set up a training with us where we can walk you through all of these event types, in person, virtual chats, and webinar, and really collaborate with you to figure out how they can fit into your firm's, vision and plan, and how to really use them to your benefit. You have them already, and so it's just now implementing them and starting that process of building and those relationships and making those connections.
Awesome. Totally agreed. So, conclusion here is that you all should definitely be using Flo Recruit's outreach events to supercharge your pre-recruiting. And if you haven't yet gotten into pre-recruiting, we hope this was a nice introduction. We're going to go into Q&A now, but just note that the QR code on your screen will immediately take you to a form where you can request time with Kristin or Ashley on the account management side, any of our current clients, as well as Hannah and Courtney on the new business side of the house if you're interested in Flo Recruit. But we have a ton of questions, so we're going to answer them now and make sure that you all get everything you need to start using Flo Recruit outreach events. All right. Okay, let's see. We have a question in here that, Kristin, it says, can you export the candidate's information and will it list the events individually or have a count? Is that possible in Flo Recruit?
Yes. So when you go into the candidates section, you can filter by a specific event. You can select one or multiple candidates. And once one candidate at minimum is selected, an export button will highlight for you. In there, you'll see a bulk PDF option, as well as multiple CSVs, where you can export all of that information out of Flo Recruit.
Awesome. Yes, definitely people love to export that information so that they can use it later to follow up or to help make the case for why a candidate would be a great fit for a firm. All right, another question here that asks, when engaging with student groups at law schools, many organizations coordinate their own virtual events like panels and small group chats, and those take place outside of Flo. In this case, the firms aren't involved in registration. They're not the ones sending the registration link. How is a firm supposed to track those candidates if it's a virtual event and they want to still have those folks in Flo Recruit? Kristin, what would you think is the best way to do this?
I think you could still create an in-person event in that situation if you are, meeting these students one-on-one and kind of, having conversations with them. You could send them the registration link where they could go in and put in their information. And then that would connect back to your Flo Recruit account. The nice thing with the Flo events is you can get as creative as you want with them and make them work for whatever situation it is that you need to collect that student or candidate information.
Yep. Yeah, agreed. I think we've seen people use in-person events. We've also seen people just create a webinar event, and then on the webinar, if it's some sort of webinar or virtual event, they're often sending that link in the chat too. So like, hey, if you want to keep in touch with our firm, go ahead and click this link in the chat and register. I think that's been really successful for some of our firms.
Definitely.
All right. So Beth asks, regarding sign-in at on-campus events, is there a follow-up email that can be sent to students to encourage them to set up or complete their profile, like documents? Kristin, I think this would be good for those on-campus events to talk specifically in kiosk mode, what it looks like when they just submit that brief information and how more information gets in there.
Yes, that's a great question. So when you set up your event for a school hosted event, you still answer the same questions that you do if you were hosting your own in-person event. So it's going to ask you if there's any qualifying questions that you want to ask them, if you want to collect any documents from them. So in kiosk mode, it just has them fill out the basic information, first name, last name, email, and phone number. Once they submit that, immediately they're going to receive an email and a text message with a link to complete their profile. That way they can do it after the event and go in and fill out that information. The second thing is when you set up that event, there is a follow-up email that you can turn on, and you could set it up to go out maybe the next day. And so you can include language in that follow-up email. It was great to meet you, looking forward to continuing to connect. Don't forget to fill out your profile information. So both of those things can be used to help encourage them to provide you all of that information.
Yeah, I think when we enabled a text message and an email to be sent when a candidate fills out their information on kiosk mode, just that first name, email, phone number, exactly like you said, Kristin, that was a game changer for us because candidates could just walk up, fill out this information really fast, they already know it, and then they can answer more questions on their own time and upload documents. So you're keeping the line moving and you're keeping the conversation fluid. They're not on your phone or on that computer for too long. It feels really natural, just like a sign-in sheet. Kristin, can you talk about the attorney attendees being able to provide feedback on students they met events? Is that possible in Flo Recruit?
Yes. So in any of those event types, there is the ability to turn feedback on. And so while you're setting up the event, you can determine what questions you want the members to answer on the candidates that they meet with. When you send the Outlook calendar invite, it can include the feedback link right there. That way, if they're on their phones at the event, they can go into their email and click on that link and answer the feedback right there, or they can do it later. Another great thing is you can turn on feedback reminders that'll go out automatically to those members who participate to remind them to submit that feedback for you.
Yeah, that's great. Of course, we see different questions asked, feedback questions asked for interviews versus events. Events, we typically see firms asking more basic questions just to help a recruiter identify some of those high potential candidates if they weren't in the room, or of course, because the recruiter can't meet everyone there. So I think feedback has been huge for some of our clients to help kind of highlight some of those great candidates and what a next step might be by crowdsourcing that from the attorneys. Something there, Kristin, I feel like every single one of our clients says, like, our attorneys will never do that. That's impossible. And as soon as they use Flo Recruit in-person events, and it's so easy to get that feedback, they're always shocked at how much input they get. So I think it's a really cool moment for us when attorneys are using the software because it's easy.
Yeah, and because it's an in-person event and not like an official interview where you maybe have 10 questions that you want them to answer, you can really leave it open-ended, maybe just ask their overall feedback and say, oh, she was really personable, she, seems like she has some great experience, so they can just quickly put in a couple bullet points. Or you could even have a scale 1 to 5, like, what did you think of them? So it can be really simple however you want that to be.
Totally. Someone asked, can you use the RSVP forms to ask candidates questions before the event, or is it just their LinkedIn profile? I think you've mentioned this in some of the answers, but maybe just clearly state, can they do that?
Yes, you can. So part of the process of creating any events is selecting qualifying questions. So these are additional questions that get asked during that registration process, and they are customizable. So this may be where you want to ask their school, their graduation date, if they have a office preference, a practice area. That way you can really get a good overall picture of who this person is. And so you can set up those qualifying questions, and those would be things that they're asked during the registration process.
Yep. Perfect. Yeah, that's one of the best use cases for Flo Recruit. Another question came in, does Flo Recruit interact with Workday so that the candidate information can get into Workday as a prospect? I can take this one. Flo Recruit does not yet have a direct integration into Workday. That being said, we do allow you to export any of this information into a spreadsheet that is easily uploadable into Workday and other systems. So we do sometimes see folks choosing to do that so they can mix it. But I'll tell you here that our new applicant tracking system that we launched last month is awesome. We've had such great feedback from clients, and I really encourage you all to take a look at it, because one of the hallmarks of our applicant tracking system is that everything about a candidate is in one place. All the events they attended, all the interviews they had, all the jobs they applied to. And I think it's just a really beautiful mixing of all of that really, really good, solid data about your recruiting process. All right. A question also came in about a QR code. That you can have your logo on that QR code, like we mentioned. Does Flo Recruit have to create that? Can you send that to the marketing department once it's created? What's the best way to ask our team about creating a QR code, Kristin?
Yeah, so you can reach out directly to Ashley or myself, or you can even come through the chat and just say, hey, I'd love to have a QR code flyer, and that's something that we can create for you and then would just email over to you. A lot of firms will print it out, maybe even have it laminated, since that QR code is something that you can use for all of your events moving forward. That way you don't have to keep printing it off for each event. You have it in a nice laminated format, but just reach out to us and we can get that created.
Nice. Ashley asked, can they add notes when they check in someone at the end of an event? Can you add notes to their candidate profile?
Yes. So when you're on a candidate's profile, one of the tabs across the top is admin notes, and it's basically a free form field that you can go in and enter any sort of notes on a particular candidate. And these notes are something only that admins would see. So it's not going to be externally facing to the interviewers or to the candidate themselves.
Nice. All right. Let's see if there's one more question, and then I think that we will stop there and make sure that these questions, other questions, get answered as well. Someone asked if there was an ability to log one-on-one meetings which didn't happen through Flo, and if there was a workaround where they could use a virtual chat to do that. Is that something you've seen clients do as a workaround to actually log those one-on-one meetings as virtual chats?
I haven't heard that, but I think that is a good idea, something that you could definitely do. That way you do have that record of those one-off meetings, and it will still display in the candidates events page.
Got it. Okay. Well, thank you, Kristin. Thank you to our audience for learning with us today about Flo Recruit's outreach events. We're really excited to see so many of you starting in-person events again, as well as using those digital formats. We're seeing such a great compilation of virtual and in-person, and I love to see hybrid really coming to life. So please reach out to your account managers. You can use that QR code to request a meeting right now if you want more training on how to leverage Flo Recruit's in-person events for both the ones you're hosting as well as the law school is hosting, and our virtual chats and webinars. All right, thanks everyone. Great to see you. Have a great week.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.